Right, hey everybody. I hope you're all doing great tonight. I've had a pretty good day. Just had pizza, so of course that's going to raise my spirits. Let's go ahead and get right into it. So we're still working on bump height, and mostly we need to figure out what the height would be for the triangle center. If we look in the game, we can see right here that there's a hole, and that's because these points only average between these two hexagons and not the third hexagon that's involved, and so this point won't actually match up. That's what we're going to try and fix today. So it's not really too difficult, but we're going to need, I think we're going to need to introduce a new type of math, something called a barycentric coordinate system, and it's basically just a fancy way for some kind of way to lerp in between the values of a triangle. And mathematically, it's three values here, and they're the ratio of the areas of the triangles formed by, I think the first one, so if you have a triangle, oh, they don't have a great math, don't have a great, I'm trying to say, don't have a great diagram here, but so this point, this first value is basically the triangle formed by these two edges, and then the second value is triangle formed by here, and then the third would be the triangle formed right there, which obviously doesn't exist, and that's why these ratios are half, half, 0. And so for the center point, we just want to pass 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. And an easy way to average now is you just take what's called a linear combination, which is basically just a weighted average. You can see right here that a point at any point R given by the triangle circles or the triangle corner points R1, R2, R3, you just take the barycentric coordinates and multiply it by the point. So, I mean, technically, to find the triangle center, then all we have to do is like average the bump height on each corner by 1/3, kind of like how we're doing here, but I'd like to, like in case we ever want to add a triangle loop or another loop of edges in that triangle, I think it'd be a good idea to just make like a barycentric lerp function. And it's not going to be that difficult. Because like if, right now I don't think the margins are big enough, but I could imagine at some point where we'd want to have another loop of edges running around here, and that'd be just way easier to do if we set up barycentric coordinates now. Just add something here. I'll just call this vector 3 triangle average. C, so we'd have the 3 points of the triangle, and then we'd want to get the barycentric coordinates. I'll just call L because it looks kind of like the lambda that's given in the Wikipedia. That letter is called a lambda if you don't know. Guess we could just call these points 1, 2, and 3 as well, of ABC. And okay, so this is actually very simple. We would just return P1 times L1 plus P2 times L2 plus P3 times L3. What's in the like about that? Oh, I think that's not a real error, it's just leftover. One other interesting thing about barycentric coordinates is that you really only need to pass 2 of these because this third one is just whatever's left over. So, might as well add that in. Okay, so now for our triangle center, we just want to triangle average, and then we pass the 3 corners. Guess I'll still put this on a new line. Then we need to pass 1/3. Oops, not 13. Okay, so now let's just test to make sure that works. How it should look the same as it was before. Otherwise, Unity not opening. There we go. Okay, so yeah, the triangle is still set up. Basically, we did exactly the same thing as we did before. But now we have a more powerful system that we can use in the future. So let's see. Get this 3. So yeah, instead of passing these, we'd want to pass... I guess we'd still want lerp AB, and then we'd want to have this second one, which would be... I guess let's just have it from the neighbor to this D. Okay, and our triangle average here, I guess we'll need another version of this to average floats. It's the same, and actually we'll need another one for colors now that I think about it. Okay, so now the final height and length will just be the triangle average. And so we'd want to just grab this function. But let's actually go ahead and just collapse them all in a separate value so I don't have to have such a huge function call here. This would be the height A, height B, height B, and then lerp AB and lerp AC, if I can spell it right. Then we'll do the same thing except for the lengths. Okay, and yeah, we don't need this return anymore. So up here I just need to change this to have this new 3-value lerp position, which is going to be huge. Other cell dot... Oh, right. So I guess I'll start up here. So this would be the clockwise other cell dot surface prototype. Okay, so the lerp AB is just 0 to 1 value on this side, which would correspond exactly the same as the barycentric coordinates from here to here, I think. And then this value right now, since we know it's the center of the triangle, we can just pass 1/3. Although I guess here, yeah, we only have to do the 3-point bump position on the triangle center, so I'll save some work there. Okay, and we know this is just 1/3, so. Or wait, is that true? Yeah, because it's yeah, because it's in the middle of this triangle. Yeah, so this lerp AB is not exactly correct, is it? I guess I'd still need to pass this lerp AB in case we have something like this. But otherwise I need to pass the barycentric coordinates. Oh. Yeah, because they're not exactly the same. I thought it might be, but that's not how it works. Because in the center, here we know that the center, oh well no, the center is 1/2. But when you move it up here, it would change. Yeah, so need to do a bit more math to figure that out, but it's not needed for now. Okay, so this is 1/2. I'll just copy this. And here it's the same, except I need to change to the clockwise, of course. Or counterclockwise. Okay, and the terrain is fine, and yeah, so is the center color. Because it's 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. So like I said, trying to do this barycentric coordinate stuff is a little bit overkill for now because we only want the center point, but if I ever need to expand on it later, I think it'll be good to already have that in place. So it's still not matching up. What did I do wrong here? Those are on the corners, so that's okay. B. That's all right. Go to A. Looks like everything's okay. Oh, this doesn't use a triangle average, but that's okay. I guess I'll go ahead and convert that. Oh yeah, now I just need to pass 1/3. Oh. I don't think that was the problem, but Oh, it's a shame we're still having a hole there. What am I doing wrong? Weird shadows going on, but it seems to... Oh no, that's just the checkerboard texture. Oh, that says clockwise, it should be counterclockwise. That could have been the whole issue. Hopefully that's what's the problem, otherwise I have some math wrong. Okay, yeah, now they match up, as far as I can see. There's good. Okay, cool. I think we've got a fleet them so far. I mean, there's still some work to do. Like, this looks a little weird, but yeah, I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to do with these edges yet, so I'm not going to worry about that yet. And then, of course, this height map is just a little crazy. Let's test some other values in here. We go back to having one subdivision. I think this would probably be more sensible. Okay, now you can still kind of see the checkerboard pattern. I mean, and it, yeah, they're not perfect squares because everything is kind of in these triangles, but that's okay because any kind of pattern that you had here, I don't think you'd want to have perfect squares anyway. It just looks strange. Okay, cool. So I think we're done with height maps. Let's see what else we have in the to-do list. Oh yeah, so get pixel bilinear might be too slow. But it seems to be doing fine actually. Guess we could, excuse me, always bring up the profiler and have a look at what functions are called. An error? No, it just paused. Okay, so scripts are this blue, so let's look and see what's going on here. Actually, a lot of memory is allocated right here. Mesh memory is this orange line, so I'm sure that's when we create the mesh. So if we look at this frame, you can maybe see the I'm gonna have to find the. That's not it. Well, actually, this would happen during the loading phase, but what's taking up all the time on this frame? Action manager. It's just yeah, it doesn't have anything to do with the terrain. Good server phase takes that much time. Oh, the debug logs. But also just a network client takes a while. Okay, well. Good to know. So this isn't the terrain. I'm just gonna keep looking on these spikes. Unfortunately, with our overhead, it's a little difficult to, or with our system, we have to keep going down these huge values. Find the actual thing that's doing the work. Okay, that's just net stuff again. So here's the asset organizer. Block prototype. Okay, so creating a texture array is what that was about. Maybe this next tick is the terrain. Oh, can I just search for it? So, graphics, terrain. Does it show up? Oh, it's graphics mesh, not graphics terrain. Okay, I think this isn't as easy as I thought it would be. Yeah, so this is all just loading assets. Then here is when we saw it was the loading. Oh, here's the map creator. Okay, but it's calling the terrain generation script. Let's just get Lua, it's not the fastest. Okay, well, it would seem that the terrain is not that slow at all. Because I'm having a hard time finding it in this list, and I thought it would for sure be one of these spikes. But it seems like most of them are actually the netcode. Okay, well that implies to me that we shouldn't worry about to get pixel bilinear. But maybe I'll just do a quick search. Pixel bilinear fast. I know that usually reading all the pixels of a texture is really slow, so that's why I was worried about this, but seems to not be an issue. Look in the official documents. Okay. Well, it doesn't say anything about it, but maybe it's just set pixel that's slow, not get pixel. It goes against what I've seen before, but I hear Cat-like coding has a thing. Let's see. Okay, so they just use get pixel bilinear to get the noise source. So, yeah, because they're using a noise cloud to do some work, kind of like what we're doing with the height map. And if they use it, I think it's probably okay. But I guess later on, if it seems to be slowing down, we can come back and change it. It's not that difficult. All we do is just read every pixel and put it in a 2D array. That's what I was thinking we'd do, but if we don't have to, then I'll save myself a step. I'm gonna wait to do this. This will be guess technically map generation. I was thinking about what tag. That's actually UX, isn't it? So I think we'll make a new tag. How about orange? Now let's move this down to reminders to investigate later. And I guess we're done with height maps. Okay, I thought that we'd be working on it for a little longer, but so I'm not really sure what I want to do still about the visible cliffs. So a while ago, when I was first doing the first iteration of the terrain, to make this easier to see, let's turn off or down the bumpiness. Over here, let's make it pretty small for now. But if we look, where's the hill? So right here, we have a cliff that's 2 blocks high. And what originally I wanted like the block underneath this to be visible, and so that you could click and maybe the game would interact with it somehow. But it turned out to be kind of difficult to make look good because we had an edge here which kind of broke the triangle flow, and now that we've done these margins it will be even weirder. Well, actually, not really. It would go just exactly on this edge right here, but we had other issues that I didn't know how to blend the colors correctly. So I'm still not sure if I want to have those underneath blocks exposed or not. So I might skip that for now and we'll just go on to something else to save time. Or not save time, but to bide time until I make a decision. Okay, yeah. But one thing about the cliffs is that they should probably have a different texture than the tops. So one thing I was thinking for the better cliffs is that we'd maybe allow a different different bump map textures for that. So for example, it would be rougher here, or like in this cat-like coating they actually have like terraces. I don't think that's going to be compatible with the way that I've done. Yeah, you can kind of see it here. That won't be compatible with the way I've subdivided unless we just get rid of the subdivisions for terraced cliffs, which I guess we could do. I think a lot of that is going to come down to waiting until we've actually got some blocks that are going to be in the final game, and then we'll just want to make them look as good as possible. Yep, some of the code. Oh yeah, one thing I wanted to do is maybe have a better looking terrain texture instead of using the checkerboard. So I'm just going to create a new texture here. And we'll just create a cloud texture, which we can use. Yeah, so render clouds. That tileable all true, and then I'll be looping, which is really nice. We don't want that. Looks... it's not as detailed as I wanted, so let's try one more time. So do I need to make the size bigger? Oh no, yeah, bigger. Up. And... okay, I think that'll be better. And so let's export. It's over. Yeah, Unity, then back to assets, in mod assets, and then so we have this height checkerboard, so I'll just make height noise. Maybe PNG wasn't the best idea for that. And while I'm here, I'll go ahead and generate another because we're gonna have another noise texture. I'll get to it today. Or I'm gonna do this noise and variation, which will perturb the corners of the hexagons to make them not quite straight. So if we just render this again, but with a different seed. And probably won't want it as detailed. Bring it down. Oh, we went over it. That looks fine. Okay, and I'll just call this edge, or I'll just call this distort. Alright, I've got to change these, set them up correctly, so we don't want bitmaps, and again we gotta turn off sRGB because they're a data texture, not a color texture. You'll get some weird values there that you don't expect. That's fine. Oh, and then they both need to be read-write enabled. And then in here, we'll just change this from the height checkerboard, height noise, I think is what I called it. And so now it'll look a little smoother and nicer instead of being those weird blocky checkerboard shapes. Let's do that, and dirt will be a little smoother, 0.5. Oh, right. Actually, white noise is not contained, so I'm not sure why this all went a little crazy there, because when this was thrown, the game should have just stopped. Let's try that again. Yeah, that worked better. So some weird stuff happens when you try to load something from when it's not actually in the asset bundle. But I don't think that's my fault. I think it's something going on in Unity actually. We can actually remove that from the asset bundle and then build the asset bundles. And gotta wait for it to load. There we go. If I show and explore, we've got the asset bundles are actually up here. And so I just need to pass this test content, or not pass it, but move it into the mod folder. And now both those textures will be in there, and then when we press play, it should load fine. Okay. Or Unity will just crash. Okay, so just a sec, let me reload it. This seemed to happen last time, I don't know what's going on. I haven't like updated to a new version of Unity. Seems like ever since this version came out, the asset bundle build process has been a little buggy. Alright, so let's try one more time. And if it crashes again, then I'll just rebuild the bundles. But no, it looks fine. But I guess the bump is too subtle, you can't actually tell that there's anything. Okay, so let's make this, let's make it 1, and then this half, just to see what it looks like. No, Unity. Oh yeah, it's there. I was gonna say it's still not there. I don't know why this thing up. Yeah, that looks pretty cool actually. Although obviously the bump is too high because this part looks like it's the same altitude as there when they're not supposed to be. But yeah, that's a neat effect. This is like something more how the final product would look. And you can kind of see the triangle still because we're going with like a low poly look, so probably we should lower down the subdivisions actually. Change this to 1 and go there. Yeah, that looks pretty cool actually. They gotta look better, obviously, without the checkerboard texture. Need to find something better for that, but that's cool. I wonder, the triangle's still too small. Be a little funny if after all that work we end up not using any of those new margins, but okay, what's this line? Is that just a shadow? Oh yeah, I think it's a combination of the shadow and then the mesh edge being right there. It looks kind of strange. Or the shadow and the texture changing. I like it, but I think I'll change this back to 1. And I'm looking for this window, and I want to bring these heights down a bit. Do 1.5. Don't worry about making it look perfect once we've again got some real art. Still just testing stuff. I think it's starting to look more like actual terrain instead of just polygons. Alright, so next up, oh yeah, we're going to do the noise variation. And so I think what I'll actually do is just on these, whenever we do a bump position, I'll read from the noise. And then also perturb the all the vectors in on the XZ plane as well instead of just the Y. And so this will be like a terrain-wide noise texture instead of just per block. Although I guess it could be per block. I don't really know. Well, you might want like ice blocks to be a perfect hexagon or something. I could see that. Okay, I just convinced myself. So what we want to do is just have, what do I want to call this? I guess distort map, maybe? And gotta add, oh, that was just the length, but then I also need to add the actual distort map texture reference. Okay, and I think I just called it distort. If we go to mod files, we'll just need to add that to the block prototype. Click string, distort map, and public float distort map bump length. I guess I'll need the stretch value too, won't it? Because it tells the game the amount to sample the texture as the world position changes. I'm trying to get quite a bit of values in here. I bet we'll need to set kind of like sensible default. Before we do this, I forgot to like change this and see what the terrain looked like. I don't know why my Windows bar is acting a little weird tonight. So I changed the stretch value and I made it larger, which means that the clouds will have more detail, basically. Yeah, it looks pretty cool. I think both ways look nice, actually. But you know what? The dirt should be smooth, and then the stone should be rockier. Let's change this. How that looks. Yeah, that's a cool effect, isn't it? They both use the same texture, but since the stretch values are different, the dirt tiles are smooth while the stone tiles are a lot rockier. Yeah, I like that. They still blend fine, I don't see any holes. Okay, but yeah, back to this. So I added that to the mod file, and now gotta load the new textures in the, what is it? Mod load manager. Down here when we load block prototype, which is right here. We already load the texture and the height map, so we just got third texture here for the distort map. And again, like if this is null, the game should just use like a white texture, but we can add that later. So now we've got to add that texture to the block prototype here in the game logic. Actually, all three values here. Okay, I don't want the light bulb, thank you. And last but not least, in the asset loader, we've got, or the asset organizer, we've got to transfer all this data from the mod files into the game files. And I could just copy. Okay, so I have this. Since I'm going to be pulling out another one, should maybe change this into a helper function. Give it texture. I can spell it. Get read write texture between key and the debug name. Okay, and string bug. Now I can just pass or copy this. I got the name and then the debug name and the texture name itself. I don't need that, I can just pass the key. I should actually pass our call get pixel bilinear because I know sometimes this bilinear is not supported based on some of the of it. I don't know what's going on with those tooltips. But yeah, this bilinear is not supported. I think if you turn on, if you turn on this crunch compression. Alright, so now the height map, we don't need any of this. But I could just pass get read write texture and then loaded database. Oh, that's the mod database, okay. I guess this should actually be the block prototype's name, not the mod database. Yeah, that makes more sense. Then I could just do the same thing for the distort map. Get okay, and where else is this used? So I need it for the mod name. but not so much for these specific debugs because we already know the block prototype, so we don't need to pass in the mod name the whole thing. Alright, so now we gotta load the data for these stretch, or these values for the distort map. Pretty sure that's there, distort. Okay, I named something wrong. Distort map, bump length, and distort map stretch value, yeah, they're both there. Oh, that was the game data, not the mod version. Stretch. Okay, there we go. Okay, still didn't name it correctly. Probably spelled something wrong. There we go. Add sort map stretch value. Bumpling. Same. Okay. I think we finally captured everything from the mods. Gimp. And we're ready to actually apply this data to the graphics mesh. And I think we can just do it every time we call this bump position. Instead of just returning the X and the Z as they are, we'll actually bump them as well. We can get, I think we can do the same thing, except well, it just assumes height map. So just to keep things simple, I'll do a separate function. Look at, and it'll has to actually be a vector 2. That's a good point, actually, because the start will just give us one value, but we actually need an X and a Z value. So how do they do it here? Is this the... Okay, yeah, so we need to have red and blue. That's pretty easy to do, actually, I think. Let's get rid of that. I wonder... Well, in theory it's easy to do. I just need to add this as the red channel. But I don't remember exactly how to do that in GIMP. So I'll look that up later, but for now, let's just keep on programming and assume that we have you know what, we could actually, this start map and height map could all be combined into one thing. But maybe we wouldn't want to do that because I just think, because we could, like they did here, we could just have the start on the X be the red channel, Y the green channel, and Z the blue channel. And that would basically roll this bump height into this distort texture as well. But I'm trying to think of a reason why we'd want to have them separate. One thing that comes to mind is that we might want all block prototypes to have the same sort map, but I don't know. So usually I think X and Z, the sorts would be like a random cloud, and then the Y would be something actually painted like a dune shape or something. But I mean, they could still do that if it's all one texture. I guess that would be a little more difficult for a mod author to do. Also, all that work I just did kind of not needed anymore, but well, we might want different like UV. No, because that would defeat the purpose because we'd have more than one read. I'm trying to decide how I want to do it right now. Well, I think it's probably always best to start simple, and then if something about that doesn't look right, go and change it. But I already have all this set up for this to be different. Also, if we had this the same, then like the painted Y does, or the start on the Y, the height, would always have the same X and Z to start values, which might not be ideal. And they could still be one texture, but, and I guess the game could always combine them into one texture if we wanted. Okay, I guess for now I'll just leave them separate since that's what I've got so far. And so here, pretty much the same as we had before, except I'll return a vector 2, or I'll just do vector 3 actually. Well, oh, or map. Yeah, that's not gonna work. Color, and then we'll return new vector 3, color red. Okay, so red is the only thing that, or red and green are the same right now, which I guess is okay. And then, oh, but we actually want that to be on the Z, so. So, I mean, we could obviously combine these to start map and height map to be on the same texture, because here we just use one channel, and here we use two channels, so obviously this third one is ripe for use. And even if we allow mod authors to give separate ones, we could always combine them during the loading phase, just for having to store less memory. But I won't worry about it just yet. And fix this. Let's actually return a vector 3 here as well. This will simplify the code a little bit. So we'll return vector 3, 0, 0. And so now here, we just add the different, oh well, we have to do this. Yeah, we can't like or could we? I was gonna say we can't like pre-multiply this because we have to average them, but I think it'd be the same regardless. Because obviously multiplication is commutative and associative, so if we added this height, oh no, it wouldn't be the same, would it? Yeah, because the height needs to be between 0 and 1. excuse me, so that we can... Oh well no, see this would already be made and we'd just be averaging these values. So I think that would be equivalent. What's this one? Height 1 plus height 2 divided by 2. I guess there's one way to find out. Alright, so now let's just get the height right here. And oh, we don't want to do that just yet actually. This will be height. What's the math? Height times 2 minus 1 to get the range out of 0 to 1 to negative 1 to 1. And then we just need to multiply it by the prototype bump length. And we'll do the same thing here. Sort map bump length. Okay, so now all I have to do is, instead of doing this, I can just return flat position plus get bump height plus get start amount. And then here we would just get the two vectors instead of getting separate height and length. And I think we can actually just add the distorts and bump here. Don't need this. And that's not height, that would be the final position. Or that'd be the final bump, actually. So here, bump equals height A, and I guess I should change this to bump A, because it's not just the height anymore. Otherwise, we want to do a vector 3 lerp. Bump A and this. And then the final thing, we just return flat position plus bump. And then here, it's pretty much the same. Except again, we're going to just work with vector 3s. I'm surprised I didn't think of this before. That way I won't have to worry about juggling so many variables. And so I also need to get start amount. Add this onto all three. Oh yeah, too many parentheses there. It's still not happy. What's wrong with this? Oh, it's a float. Vector 3 and Here I just add the flat positions. Oh, I started typing float again. Height. Then obviously I should rename all these from height to bump. Then I can also go long anymore, so I can just like that. Okay, so let's look how that, or see how that looks. Okay, oh yeah, well the distort is all 0 right now, but the bump all looks fine, so yeah, nothing went crazy because I changed the way everything averaged. Still no holes, which is good to see. Yeah, there's no X and Z distort yet, just because the mod data... Oh, actually it should be distorted, right? Because I didn't not set to 0 right now. Maybe... these values are set wrong, or the wrong name. Oh, there's one way to check. Bug. Oh yeah, no, they're set to stuff. How come it's not distorting then? Okay, so let's set the distort amount to something kind of crazy so it'll be really obvious. And if we don't notice it now, then yeah, there's some issue that I'll have to figure out what's going on. Okay, so it's just not doing anything right now. The distort amount. And we're calling the distort map at 8. Oh, well, one thing is I need to transform these also to be between -1 and 1. I don't think that was the issue, but can't do that there. Okay, so I don't think that was the whole issue because we should have still seen something, but go straight up. Oh no, they're being distorted. It's just not easy to see because it's kind of slow. Yeah, they're definitely not perfect hexagons anymore. Yeah, that looks pretty good, actually. It also is a little weird because, again, we only have a one-channel texture right now, so red and green are the same because it's monochrome, or monochrome. So it has like these weird wavy shapes, but it still looks pretty good. Okay, I'll see. I don't really want to just take this texture, but yeah, he uses his own little number flow thing, but which is really good, but I don't have it. Oh, that was weird. Okay, well that was actually pretty simple. Oh yeah, so we need to... I think we can wait to do this as well until it's some actual issue. Why'd that happen? Okay. Okay, So yeah, I'll leave this for later because it seems like trying to solve a non-problem right now. So I need to make new channel distort image. Now what was the other thing I wanted to do? Oh yeah, look and see about combining the height and distort maps. I think it's good to keep them separate, or at least let mods have different like stretch values for them so that they loop differently. These don't need to be as big anymore. But yeah, that also lets them be separate sizes. So I think it is good to have them separate. I mean, it would be fine for them not to be, but like I said, the height maps will probably be more painted on instead of just being like random clouds. I mean, in fact, if people just leave this as blank, we might have like a generic distort image that we can use for that, because I don't really think there'll ever be much design to it. It'd just be if you wanted your terrain to be distorted or not. Because, actually, let's test that. Let's, we turn distort off for dirt. Let's see how that looks. So the dirt hexagon should be pretty much perfect. And then the stone will be a little distorted. But really, the only way you can tell is that the margins are strange. Or not strange, but distorted. That's the whole point. Yeah, actually, on the map, it's not super obvious. But it does add some variation. I think it's actually starting to come together. If we got, like I said, some good textures, I think we'd have something good on our hands, or at least a good starting point. One other thing we could do is have the heights of each of these blocks be slightly different, so that the hexagons are a little more apparent. I don't know if I want to do that, just because I feel like I should leave that up to the height maps to do. And then we'll just draw a grid over it whenever you're trying to choose where to move. Okay, let's see. So, figure out what to do with cliffs, which I guess will take some time between streams to do that. And then we've got liquids as well, which we haven't even implemented into the game logic yet, so I might hold off on them. Okay, well, decoration models, that's something we need to do. So basically how I want that to work is that every once in a while a random tree or something could be on these block terrain, or this dirt terrain. Or if you had like a city block on top, you could have, I don't know, a skyscraper or something. We have to be careful to make sure that they don't flip into the actual monsters, but that would just be something to figure out. So that's really simple. Wait, the hole? That is a hole. What's going on right there? You know what? I think it has to do because these borders average together strangely. Because it only happens on that triangle there. And it's because... yeah, it's because of the way I did the logic. Let's try and fix that real quick. So here where I average, I think it's, yeah, because I try to like reuse things and it just doesn't work. Although I am a little surprised, because it seems like oh, I guess I need to have another thing in here that if proto B is null, then we should do something between those two. I'm just going to try something out. This is going to be a little hacky just to see how it looks. So if proto B is null, then we'll want to return bump position. Come on, it did float again. I don't know why it doesn't like correct it. Proto A, proto B, and then I'm just gonna pass 1/2. And see if that fixes those holes, then I'll know what to do. But again, like, that's another thing I need to figure out. The edges just in general don't look good. So I don't want to spend too long on it, but I think that does fix the issue. Yeah, because the problem before is that we were handling this differently depending on like what way you came to it, and that just wasn't a good idea. Wait, is that okay, so it's still not perfect. Seems to have something to do with moving between stone and dirt, because over here it was pretty good. But maybe that's just because the distortions there aren't as big. By the way, let's look at how does the collider, like, because it's not being distorted at all. I think it's still okay. But yeah, we might need to make the collider also distort on the X and Y, which wouldn't really be that difficult to do. Or not X and Y, X and Z. I guess we'll just have to play the game and see if it starts picking the wrong tile at certain points. Okay, so something's just not right there. If I do models, fix, or I don't know, decide what to do with a border of the world. Okay, well, I just have like 5 more minutes. I don't think I have enough time to really do much on the distort or the flavor images, or what am I trying to say, decoration models, but I guess maybe we can start on the mod, like how we'd store that data here. So it needs to have the actual model and then like a percentage chance. I don't know, maybe the models, like, they shouldn't be part of the block prototype but actually be spawned. by the map generation function. Like, I don't know, we do something here. Origin. Add decoration. And then we get the board position and set a certain model. Yeah, I think we'll need to do that, and if that's the case, then we might wait because that's like a whole different system. It's not part of the terrain. But we want to do that pretty soon. It'll kind of it'll use a system similar to the monsters themselves, I think. So we might be done with the terrain for now. Because some of these other things are just design issues and we need to actually get something good looking before we try and make like better cliffs so that we don't do work that's not going to be needed. Yeah, because that already looks good for stone. I could see they're having like nice straight terrace cliffs for dirt or something and then just flat for sand. At the very least, I think it should... oh yeah, see here we can still pick the block beneath. But at the very least, I think that the blocks should, or the cliffs should be able to be set. Like the cliff should be able to have a different height texture so that we can have either rough or smooth heights. So I'm trying to look here. Yeah, so when I cross that line it switches blocks, but here obviously that's the same. Oh no, it's switching to this block. Yeah, that's a little weird. But yeah, so it actually doesn't go underneath, it's just that when you click here it still says it's this hexagon, which I guess is a matter of perception because it's going halfway up the margin. You can change that, but yeah, so we need to decide on some of those design things. And then liquids. I know for sure I probably will want liquids, but I don't know how I'll model them in the game. Because one thing I want this game to do for sure is for monsters to be able to change the terrain. And the only problem is that if we have like a liquid that takes up an entire block, then what happens if you like let it out of a little hole? It can't really, because since it's modeled as an entire block, it can't really like distort into smaller hexagons, which is kind of the problem that Minecraft had. I don't know if I call it a problem, but that's how they did their water. Of course, we could have liquid not take up an entire block, and then it would have like variable heights. Could do something like that. I guess it just depends on how complicated I want it to be. And maybe we won't even have liquid really, but we'll just have like a marsh tile or something, and then it just has liquid on top, but it's not actually its own block. That might work, but that would be like a whole different type of tile. Yeah, we just need to see what we need to create, I think. Probably need to make, like for the edges we can either have water go all out, or we could have like a floating island. Then we need to make something underneath. Yeah, so there's lots of things we can do. But I guess that's it for me for tonight. I spent the last 10 minutes just thinking about future design, but that's okay. We got a lot done today, and it's starting to look pretty good, I think. I especially like the way that the dirt is flat and the stone is bumpy. It just looks cool to me. But thanks everybody for coming by and watching. I do appreciate it. I'll be back around 8:30 Eastern, and continue from there. Yeah, I'll have to think about what we'll do, but I will do something. And then if you missed any of the streams and you want to catch up, I upload everything to YouTube, so feel free to check there. And also, you can follow me here on Twitch or on my Twitter account if you'd like to be notified when I go live. I also have a Discord channel if you want to chat with me throughout the day. I'd love to have you there. And oh yeah, and you can get links to any of those by typing !YouTube Twitch or YouTube, Twitter, or Discord in the chat, and then checking out my video description. We'll also have links there. And I think that's it for me for tonight. So again, thanks everybody for coming, and I hope you have a great night. Alright, bye-bye.